let's just cut it 17 and let staff and the manager work out the events that would support that.
Fine with me.
So 17 and a half?
Yep. All right, so I was hoping to have a more thorough discussion on the Parks and Recreation Department and you know, who's benefiting from the park, who's using the park. Madam Manager, what the costs are, what the expenses are. So I mean, without having that stuff and having the chance to review it ahead of time, I don't know that it's.
And I apologize.
No, and listen, I know you have a lot on your plate.
Again, another special meeting?
I
I wouldn't mind it.
I think it's an important issue and it really warrants a lengthy discussion, but without the information, I can't have that discussion tonight.
Well, then, should I make a motion that we have another meeting?
No motion.
No motion.
We get consensus. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the entire recreation budget, which is less than $150,000. How many meetings are we going to have to discuss this?
It's still $150,000.
But, yeah, and then-
Just cancel the whole part. So let's talk about what is the goal.
the goal is to have an understanding as to who's using the park, what it's costing to maintain and offer the services that we offer in the park, so that we can make an educated decision on whether this budget makes sense.
Okay.
What difference
But
does it
regardless
make
of
when you
who is
have-
using the park, we have a facility that is open for people to come in and go out of. We can't bar people from using the space. And by having an open space, we also have an obligation and a liability that we need to make sure that we protect as well.
Okay.
So, you know, it doesn't really make a difference who is using the park, whether it's people from Miami Shores or people from North Miami or unincorporated Dade or Biscayne Park people.
No, and that's just one component, but the devil's in the detail. I mean, I want to see the numbers, I want to see what services we're offering, how much it's costing. I mean,
David, I don't think that's where the devil is. I think the devil's in the question, who's using the park?
No.
Well, we've talked in the past about reprogramming the park, possibly, so I want to have a better understanding of the costs and expenses of the park before we approve a budget for it.
Will this help you? I can give you something. I'm sorry I just wasn't able to detail it out because we had it printed from the system. The biggest user, the Golden Gates summer camp and after school, okay? We're averaging, the way it's paid is on a weekly basis. We get the numbers from them. We have on average 25 residents using it and on average 8 non-residents, okay?
That's the Golden Gate program.
Correct.
During the school year or during the summer?
Pretty much throughout the whole school year, that's the average. Okay, so during school years, the after-school care program, and then of course during summer, you have the summer camp. But that's how many participants are in it.
And what time do they regularly come?
As far as,
When do they arrive?
around, school that's out at 2:30 in some schools, 3 in another, so around that time they arrive.
Is there anybody, and how often, aside from the yoga class, was it used at all in the daytime?
Okay, so our response to Golden Gates, last year they had about 25 residents, 8 non-residents. The numbers have increased. So they have about 40 kids on average. This is only the second week of school. So I just now got the new roster for the week. So we will have the updated totals with residents, non-residents, and how much is coming in. You asked about the yoga classes. We average about
You can stop on that, what time do
But
they
Golden
arrive?
Gates pays us, don't they?
Wait.
Golden Gates pays us for the building, they pay us also for the van, to use the van. Kindergarten and first grade, they get out of school at 1:50, so they arrive to the rec center about 2:15. They're there from about 2:15, then they do their second trip, and then they go and they get the second through fifth graders. Second through fifth graders get out of school at 3 o'clock, so they make it to us about 3:15. Then there's a second van in Golden Gates that goes to Miami Arts Charter. They leave around 3 o'clock, they get back to us about 3:45.
And the revenue that they're generating based on how much it's $50 for residents?
It's 50 for residents, 60 for non-residents, and for the Miami Arts Charter, since they're older, they charge 90 because they do morning pickup, afternoon drop-off, and then they stay in the aftercare program as well.
Okay. And out of that, it's approximately about $1,800 a week they're collecting based on those numbers, average, 1,800, 1,900, and we get 30% of that. I think my numbers came out to about 16,000 a year that we get from those programs.
Well, my question is, are there any, well, why couldn't we close the rec center in the mornings? The only thing that we have there during the week, it seems, is the yoga class from 11:30 to 12:30. I mean, if the rec center were just closed, would it save money if it's until 2 o'clock? And then we just.
The problem that we run into is there's a lot of people that exercise, and then we have the nannies. I haven't done like a count lately, but on any given morning, there's about 10 to 15 toddlers and nannies in the top one. So you can't close it because they can't use the bathroom, they need water. So there's somebody in the building to monitor that. And then yoga is Mondays and Wednesdays, and they go usually an hour, hour and a half, depending on how Dristy is feeling. And then, like I said, we have just other patrons in the park exercising and things like that.
But years ago, the park was closed at a certain time, because I remember that one issue with one of the exercise people who was given a key or the combination to the lock to come in and open it because it was closed.
That turned into an issue as well with the key when we let our instructors have keys, the doors aren't locked, the officers notify us that people could come in and out, and we've had issues with that. So that's why we try to eliminate that.
Okay, so the Golden Gate program, it appears that more residents use that than non-residents, correct? Okay, and quite frankly, I mean, part of the issue is who's using it, and I think we should discuss, I know that we've discussed in the past, but, you know, I just hear a general statement that we receive money to develop the park, and so we can't exclude non-residents, but I've never seen something concrete, an opinion. You know, what was the money used for? Was it used for the building? Was it used for other improvements of the park? So I want to exhaust all those things. I hear from a lot of residents that they feel as though the park is being used by primarily non-residents, and that, in fact, they would like to use the park, but do not feel comfortable using the park for various reasons. So I think we need to have that discussion, and so that's why I want to...
Is there a particular part or anything? Because, I mean, besides myself and staff, people are pretty good about coming in and saying, hey, I have this issue. Like, is there something that we can look into that they're saying they're uncomfortable, or is somebody saying something?
Sure,
because we have
sure.
staff outside,
Yeah.
so they have their shirts on and they're doing rounds, so I'm not sure if it's a thing of they just don't want to approach staff, or is there, like, do they want to play basketball but they're intimidated because they have a game going on, or is it there's a bunch of kids on the playground but their child wants to play, or, you know, what exactly is it so that we know so we can rectify it?
Yeah, no, it's a whole host of issues, and some of which you touched on. The basketball court obviously has been an issue that many people have raised with me. The language that goes on there, you know, the people that rent, I don't know if they're renting or using the picnic areas, not really respecting those areas, littering. And again, I don't know whether those are residents or non-residents. I'm just telling you that the perception is that non-residents are benefiting from the park, and it's costing us a lot of money to maintain the park. That's the perception. And I don't have enough information to be able to decide what we should do with that.
You mean that's the assertion?
That's the perception, assertion, yeah.
Could be a big difference between perception and assertion.
Mary?
You know, if one of the complaints that people, you know, are having parties or whatever over in the corner and they're not taking care of it and there's trash and stuff left around, I think it ought to be recreation staff ought to go find out when they start seeing them.
And they do, they make sure that they have their permit, and then they have to go through us, and then if it is a party or an event that they don't clean up, we charge them, and we don't give back their security deposits. And then we take pictures after to make sure that they cleaned up like they were supposed to.
So maybe some of our residents don't realize that part is being already covered and taken care of.
Yeah, no, that's
Is it
fine.
during the week? Is it during the, I mean, you know, just trying to kind of pinpoint, so if staff is there, we could just say, hey, you know, make sure you keep even more of an eye on this particular thing or not.
And the other thing is the programming in the park and what we have to offer, and whether it's what the residents want. I think at some point, we've been saying this, and I've been promising people for the last few years, that we're going to have a broader discussion about the park and what people want to see in the park. Do we want a more passive park? Do we want a invited tours for adults? You know, what do we want? What do the residents want for the park?
Like, we know we asked, like, with the bike course and things like that, that's a project that the foundation has undertaken since we've kind of put the lighting project to the side, but they haven't exactly built up the funding, but we did take the time to look to see if we could get a couple of pieces. And I know with programming, it's an issue. People are like, oh, there's not adult classes. We try to run adult classes and have them, but it's difficult, one, to find the instructors, and then two, to get the participation. Like, when it's new, people will come out for a class or two, and then after it falls by the wayside. Like, for example, we had free boot camp classes, and we maybe got like 5 people, and it was free, and no one showed up. So that's kind of the issue that we're running into, is finding instructors that will teach the class, because they have to put out money first to have the classes at the rec center, and then we don't guarantee that they'll have instructors, participants. So that's kind of an issue we run into as well.
Well, maybe that indicates that, that many residents aren't interested, also aren't interested in using the park in that way. Because it's like, not so we're offering programs, everything we offer is like, has been outsourced, someone else does it, but we don't do it. So, I mean, are there any programs aside from the twice monthly Lego?
The Lego and the art?
That the rec center does? So, okay, there's a lot of large budget.
Just let me say that those outsourced programs need oversight.
Oh, yeah.
They need oversight.
Somebody has to be there.
Not just to be there, but oversight for the overall, how their payments are coming in, to make sure that they're following all the regulations. And we've had to do that with Golden Gates, and we need to do even more.
Well,
You
yeah.
just can't put it on and turn away. You have to constantly monitor it and.
I'm not talking about Golden Gates, I was thinking just as yoga.
Okay.
But I guess, yes, we need a manager. We need Shalisha. And Shalisha, you're excellent and you're a value to the village. This is not about that. But do we need the other employees? Can we limit the hours that staff is there? I just want to be creative and think. I'm not saying this is the best option or that makes no sense, but I at least want to have a discussion about it and have all the information in front of us. So
we tried to kind of combat that. So how I plan the schedule, I really don't have staff come in until 3 o'clock when our peak hours are coming, when everybody's coming in from after school, and then they're there pretty much from 3 to 8. They're there from 3 to 8 because with daylight savings, but when daylight savings hits, the hours will be adjusted accordingly since the sun won't be out. But I usually have one person there in the afternoon when the majority of the visitors are at the park. And then the weekends, that's a little different because they're there all, people are coming in and out all day, or there's parties or things like that. So then the rec center is staffed all day on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, well, look, this is a workshop, all right? We're going to have 2 public hearings. We can discuss and modify the budget at the public hearing, correct? And in the meantime, you'll get us the information that we requested.
And
Vice Mayor
We
Plesser.
can keep talking about, every topic, but we're talking about a $2.7 million budget, of which the rec department, after you take away the capital improvements, is $124,000. That's 4.5% of our entire budget.
I understand, but when we're talking about items such as the proper surface for the top lot, that's $40,000, and we can't do it because we don't have sufficient funds, then $100,000 is a lot of money. And then many other things that we would like to do in the village that we don't have funds for.
You know what, David, some weeks ago, you asked a wonderful question. It was just after we found out that we could not annex this year. And your question was, so how are we going to make up the income we need, the revenue we need, since we can't get it from annexation? And I think that was great. That's what we should be thinking about. We should not be thinking about taking a balanced budget, which works fine if we don't touch it, and figuring out what we can take out of it. How thin can we get it? How low can we go? How much can we deprive people? That is not the role of a municipality, and it's not the role of a governing body. We need to figure out what to do for our income so that we can run the right kind of municipality, not beat up on people like this. That's not the right thing for us to do.
No, it's not ideal, but
It's
it's
not
definitely,
even
no, it's definitely not ideal, but here's the thing. Increasing income, there's only so many ways you can significantly increase income, and I'm not aware of any ways to increase income other than,
I gave you one a few weeks ago. I said
diversifying
charge
our tax base.
10 mils instead of 9.7.
how
It's
much,
not a lot of
money is 9.7 to 10 mils per year?
16
times 3.
32,000,
It's
okay.
enough to resolve
So what is that,
a couple
most of the top lot resurfacing?
Okay.
So just leave these people
We've already said our
alone. Don't be
tenant
taking
village
stuff
can't
away
change
from
it.
them.
Can't go up.
I think we do have to pay attention to what the state of our reserves is, and our reserves, and the fact that we did take out a $350,000 loan that we have to pay back.
And it's all budgeted for, it's all included in there.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying this is the solution and that we need to terminate the park. And I'm just saying, let's get all the facts so we can make an educated decision. Somebody wrote whether we should outsource the entire thing, since we outsource a portion of it, but we can't discuss that until we have information, so. But anyway, we can move on and we can discuss it further at the public hearing.
We can take a comment
All
on
right,
that?
so, what's
Take a
that?
com- Will you take a comment on that?
Sure.
I can't tell you the overwhelming feeling of deja vu from this discussion, because it's happened periodically for the past 40 years. And this specific discussion about staff and not having staff and not having staff, wanting programs, figuring out what people want, who's using the park, all of these things have been discussed many, many times before. If you want a program, somebody's got to plan it. If you want to find out what programs people want, somebody's got to go through that process. So you need your professional staff in hand to do that, okay? And your goal should be in this coming year, tasking your Parks and Recreation Director, which she seems to have been going through some of that process, and we had the same problem before. We don't have the money to pay an exercise person, and even if we did, we would ask that there be an offsetting revenue from that class, and that doesn't happen, because it's hard to get people to have fun. It's very hard to get people to have fun. They don't know what they want to do. And I went through it for 4 years as Parks and Recreation Director. I went through 8 years as a Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, and 2 more years still in the commission. And it's a tough thing, to balance it back and forth. But, always we came back, Mayor, that we need to provide something for our residents in every department of the city that we run here. I think Commissioner Ross has made a good point. It's a relatively small portion of our budget. By all means, use the next year to evaluate what's happening, okay? And if there's something that can serve people with the same money, that more people that live in the community with the same money, by all means do that. But it's a tough job, and you need a professional in charge to guide that and answer your questions when you have them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we want to move on to the road fund?
Just if I can remain on general fund just one quick second. So we are not adding, well, first let me say that the adjustments that you have made, hold on, I have to put 17,000 back. 1,700? Oh, I included that. Your general contingencies is down to 27,000. Okay? With the additions that you made today.
Okay.
And, as I noted in the recap, your planning budget remains at 10. You did not add in for the added code rewrite.
Did you take out the back to school? Did you take out any of the garbage line or anything?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. I mean, the only one thing I would say, though, that is the community yard sale, we did figure that we got $175 for it last year, for the people who paid $50.
Yeah, we didn't take out none of them, we just put a budget in for the total. Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the
Okay.
same page with that.
Right, Vice Mayor. Okay, let's go on to road fund.
The only thing that I wanted to comment that I updated the general fund budget, but I did not update the road fund budget. You had directed, instead of the 2% raise for the public works staff under the union, to increase it to the 3%. So that would be an additional $1,500 to this budget that I would have to balance out. That's your increase to the 3% and all your burdens.
Okay.
Could we double check the numbers on when I did the FICA at the numbers that are indicated, the percentages indicated? I got a little bit, my numbers were a little bit higher than what's shown on here, so could we double check those?
That's what I meant. These numbers here are not at 3%. These are at the 2% raise. But even
Yes.
before that, you still were
Before
on.
that, when I totaled the salaries and I multiplied it by the 7.6,
Okay.
7.52, I got a little bit higher. I'll verify.
All right, what's that? All right, so could we start on the road fund?
You're going to talk about revenue first? Or expenses?
Yeah, let's do the revenue. Madam Manager?
Yeah, it's budgeted at $126,809. Most of these revenue figures here are coming from, the Department of Revenue puts out their yearly report. They have the statistics provided for us, and that's where these numbers come in. And of course, we do have the sanitation fund. There's an administration fee that comes into the road fund, and that's included in here as well.
Okay, any questions on the revenue? All right, the expenditures?
So what we're looking at here, our expenditures are going to be higher than what we see here because they're from 2% to 3%.
Right, I will have to make some adjustments, about $1,500. Maybe there's a repairs equipment,
Any other comments?
let's do special.
Any other comments on the expenditures? Okay.
I do, on the, I don't see anything here for, or where would it be for maintenance of the generators?
We put that under public works, but that's.
Oh, that's under public service.
Anything else, Commissioners? No. Okay, CITT?
CITT, you have two sets. One is transportation and one is transit. For the transportation, we're 87,900 revenues, and of course 87,900 in expenditures. This is where we have the budgeting for the drainage cleaning, storm drain cleaning.
And then you have a budget for $10,000 for new street address signs?
Yeah, that was something that had been discussed before.
Yeah, but that, obviously that's not sufficient.
It's just a starting number.
All right. And are we,
You know, usually, I think the previous manager explained, these are place markers that we put on there. We have to provide reports to CITT, and this is just something that we have placed in there.
Maria, for the storm drainage, the vacuuming and cleaning, how often, how many times a year?
To be honest with you, I believe last year when it was done was the first time in a long time that it was done. Okay? And again, we want to do it again this year, and when I started getting quotes, I got these tremendous differences. So I leaned on the higher end, and hopefully, the public works manager, will make the right decision and
getting the correct one.
This should be yearly.
It should be,
Yeah.
yeah, but there's some of those drains should be, it should be cleaned at least 3 times.
And I encourage you to ask that when you meet one-on-one with Craig A. Smith, what their input is on that.
Okay, Vice Mayor Ross?
So according to the fund balances, cash money that we have on CITT, there's a fund balance of $491,000. And we're going to get another $87,900 this
And
year.
some adjustments are still pending to pay back to the general fund.
Right. So I think there's plenty of cushion there for us to start planning and at least set aside, some money for the drainage improvements. We'll have to prioritize them. I'm not saying we're going to do a specific project, but I think we have to start putting that money to good use.
Well, we need to figure out what kind of drainage, because stormwater, well, we got that, basically is putting in sewers without fault lines. Do we want to go along that way, or take what we have and make sure it's well maintained and fix a couple of spots that there's a dip in the road that floods into people's yards?
Well, we gotta wait to see what the report recommends.
Well, we can ask them, because we have the report.
But we said we're going to take some action. and
I
set aside
mean, it was
some
only
money.
1,000 pages, so it was a quick read, right? All
I
right,
think
so
your meetings on Friday will really give you
Yeah.
a good path
Yeah.
to.
Okay,
look
but
at
the point you're making is that, I mean, the $10,000 we can put in there as a placeholder, but if it turns out we
that. Oh,
can,
yeah, it can be changed, of course,
we can shift it around, okay?
absolutely.
So you're not suggesting any changes?
Yeah, I'm saying we should dedicate ourselves to using some of the CIP money to improve our streets.
Okay, but out of this pool of money, what do you want to,
We have $490,000 to make.
okay, but we don't know what the drainage improvements are going to require yet. So, I mean, I guess, do we need to decide tonight? What we need to decide tonight is these expenditures, right? And what we want to add to them. So you want to add to these expenditures, street improvements, but we don't know what we need in the way of drainage. So
I would
We can
prefer,
start talking to them.
I think after we digest the report and have a presentation from Craig A. Smith, at least then we know where we're at.
Maybe what we need to do tonight is declare that we are dedicating ourselves to working on this project. Because every time we decide to wait for something, we then never do anything.
We then wait for the next thing.
Yeah, but without
It
knowing.
just happens repeatedly.
No, I understand, but without knowing what he's recommending, what if he's recommending that what if what he recommends is $30 million?
Oh, yeah.
Fine, so why don't we
No, it's a
dedicate a
little
certain
bit more
amount of
than
money
that.
right
What do you
now and say,
recommend?
whatever he recommends, we're gonna spend that and start on it.
Last year when we had the same budget meeting, we said we're going to do something about bus shelters.
I thought that was on, I saw it in here.
you have to go on the next page.
It's on there.
It's on the transportation part.
My only point is we're just making up a number.
Yeah. I think
That's what, you're just gonna make up a number and put it in here as a good faith effort to say we're gonna address something, when we don't know how much it's gonna cost to address it.
Doesn't matter.
We're just, but we still have money in this bank account, the CITT funds,
Right.
because we don't put it down. The one thing that I would rather move, though, the $10,000 in new street address signs into more professional road repair. And I wondered, does road repair, would that include curbs going around some of the medians, or?
Remember, a percentage has to be used for transportation, and the road repair falls under transit.
Yeah, under transit. We can't say it's transportation, the cars will run more smoothly if they
Good try.
Oh, wow.
Charles Skirk, Deal with Help.
All right, capital improvement?
And what I have here is I added, again, the transfer out from the general fund to this capital improvement to cover the $15,000 for the improvements to the rec center for the parking swale area.
I'm sorry, can I just back up on one thing? I just want to make sure I understand. So the expenditures that we list here in this budget under the CIPT, if we decide halfway through the year that we want to tap into this money that's in the account,
To something totally different,
we can do it.
You can, you can. And I mean, you got the money here of an estimate of what the bus shelters would cost. Until we put a bid out, we really don't know for sure. But there's money there, if it's more than that.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, capital improvement?
Okay, so like I said, I just added the 15,000 transfer in from general fund to cover the improvements to the recreation center. And again, we'll have to go out to bid, different designs, asphalt, gravel, turf block, like we said. Only 50%, 100%, the different options to give to you.
Okay.
Okay, but at least it's covered in there. And again, I remember there's a 3,000 rough estimate right now for the fencing around the trash receptacles for both areas.
Marie, on the, for parking, can that be used, anything for CITT? That's right on the edge of the road.
I had that question, and I don't think I was able to make it go in there.
I know it's because it's for traffic, but.
I know.
And the other thing is
It's a
maybe,
good stretch, but it's something we can ask, you
You know,
don't
I
hurt
was
to
gonna
ask.
say,
and how about, Maria, how about if we wanted to look at putting speed tables around the park or other areas of the village, would that be covered?
I would have to ask just to make sure.
Can you find out? Because I think that's a good use of those funds. Okay.
and CITT cover that one, yeah.
All right.
Maria, I would also, when you meet with FMIT, maybe they have some funding sources they could suggest for that type of stuff.
For which one? For the speed tables or for?
Traffic controls around the parks.
All right, anything, one issue that I think is critical is the code rewrite. And I know it's going to be expensive, but I want to discuss that to see whether there's any appetite for accomplishing that this year.
If we can find the money, I think it needs to be done. But it needs to be completely done. If there's money that we can come up with, absolutely. Otherwise, we're going to have to, you know.
And we can pursue grants, obviously, for that as well, but I feel it is critical to get it done.
I agree. Anybody trying to look up any of our codes can understand. I sympathize with them when they do.
So do we want to see where we sit after all the workshops and then bring it back and discuss it at the public hearing?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, I have a couple little nitpicky things. Okay, I just want to know, Maria, why was the decision made to have the fencing or whatever covering to obscure, conceal the garbage cans over there, made of tin, metal?
No, it's aluminum.
Aluminum? So it's just going to be
It was
straight
real.
aluminum and not like,
We just sought out to get a number to give you all, to see how much, I asked a fencing professional, that goes in here, what would you recommend? And that's
I'd like
what we
to
did.
see, I think we should see what these things look like, because
We
to
would-
my mind, coming over 6th Avenue Bridge, that's the first thing that you see is the back of the log
Yeah, we're
cabin.
Nothing would get approved without you guys seeing what it looks like, ornamental.
With the,
Yeah.
The
it's not
aluminum-
gonna be, it's gonna
Glass.
be aluminum, but it's
Looks
gonna
like
be concealed, we're gonna have something
Right.
Yeah, we
that's
have to
covered, so you
follow
won't
the
actually
So the
see.
slats, they're usually slats.
Right, and it'll match
You know
the
that
railing that's over there
his
now.
whole backyard has it in there, so ask him to take.
Oh, okay, I've come to this before.
All right, anything
Because
else?
unless you
Yeah.
want knocked on it, it could be PVC.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Two other things. Yeah, after, I saw the sink that needs repairing in the exterior bathroom here. And I was just wondering, the way it's pulled from the wall, whether or not it was installed correctly. And it might be something that those who built the building did improperly.
I had the contractor come on, they looked at it, and he felt it was being leaned on. I mean, I'm not an expert, so I
Yeah, I
have to
know.
go based on that.
It's,
I think
all right,
it's
what
that
other
particular
bathroom is the
sink,
wrong
because we
sink?
ran into
It's
the
the wrong
same
sink?
issue
Oh.
at the rec center.
Yeah.
Could be. And that's something that will last to make sure that it's an exterior bathroom used by all kinds of people, even though there is a key, anybody that comes in, we give them the key.
Okay, so could you ask if whether or not a different sink should be installed,
Or different
so that we don't
bracing
have
or
this?
whatever.
Well, the normal thing is just to go ahead and put a pedestal sink in there and you got it covered.
All right, anything else, Commissioner Watts?
Okay, okay, fencing, there are two things. This, and thank you for staying, Police Chief McKenna. I just had a question or two about looking at the police budget. And I was just wondering, is it clear that our detective doesn't do any of the patrolling? And do you do any patrolling? I'm just curious about this. And how much, and is that exclusively the detective, does nothing but detective work?
Chief, would you turn that on, 'cause it looks like that monkey's off.
You good?
Yeah, this should be on now, hopefully it is.
I think he's doing something with this.
That's on the other side.
Lieutenant Pineda is an investigator, he does not do patrol work.
Okay, I'm just wondering about that. And do you do any patrol work or just?
Not really, a little bit. I'll run around the neighborhood, say hello to people.
Yeah.
They ask me how I'm doing, like that.
Yeah,
Not really.
nice. Well, I don't know, I contacted the police chief at El Portal, and I thought because they're similar, similar sizes. And their investigator does patrol, and so does the police chief patrols. And he said, well, if he's on a big case, then he would pull him off and he works full-time with that. And I was wondering if the comparison between our stats is such that perhaps we could save money on the overtime by having him do some of the patrolling when it's needed. Also, it was said, we talked about hiring somebody part-time, and we pay our reserve people like $1 a year or something, am I correct? The people that come in once a month.
We're supposed to, we don't pay them anything.
Okay, well, but also, but at El Portal, they have part-time police officers to fill the gaps, and they pay them $14 an hour. And I asked, is there any problem with your contract, with the police contract and all? And they said no. So I was wondering whether or not we might think about other ways of hiring part-time policemen at $14 an hour and saving money from the overtime budget, or whether or not it would be worth our while to look at how much our detective is really doing, and maybe there is time for him to do some of the patrols. That's just my
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Yes.
Question. Last week, we talked about the State Flood Plan Management Office, and I wonder if you have any update on a handle on what's going to be required to set that right.
No, I'm sorry, I reached out, but I did not get a response on that.
So Craig Smith helped you compile some of the deliverables they were asking for, and you turned them all in, and now we're waiting to hear back.
Correct. No, and there's still another, I asked for an extension, letting them know that we're in a transition. So that's a file that is not closed. It's still open, and we have to get to the next step.
And so going forward, we're going to have to appoint someone who is going to be, that part of their task responsibilities will be to work with the state on that floodplain issue.
It could be. It could be. I don't have that answer. I couldn't tell you for sure. Something that, yes, needs to be looked at. And let me tell you what I got this week. I got an email from, it wasn't FEMA, but it was something related to that, where they've completed the audit from Katrina, 2004-05, when we got reimbursements.
Is this good news or bad news?
There's 3 pages of a lot of stuff that we need to do. They are questioning. We have to pull files. So I don't know what it's going to entail, but we have to have an answer within 30 days. So I was trying to pull as many files that I can to understand where we got to what we got. I'm going to be showing it to John to determine. I don't know if any other city that you've heard of.
I just
got
came
this.
back from FEMA. I was there again this week, and we got to make that 30-day deadline. So when did we get that?
This week sometime.
Okay. Very important. Do they say what the amount of money is at stake, or? They have pulled money that they're doing it consistently. So-
Is it like an audit almost? Or?
Yeah, but it's an audit. Mine, in Coral Springs, it's Wilma, for example. So it's 2005.
Right, that's what I meant to say. They were both the same year. Yeah,
So
Wilma, for sure.
I'll get with you, and we really have to provide every document possible, and they actually sent me a format for our CPA to do, that I'll show you how they like to see things. I was just up there with them.
They provided a template letter that you need to sign. It was very detailed, very
It's very late in the game,
written by a government official. I can
But
say
is
that.
there an extension of the 30 days available? Or?
there's, we should put an answer within 30 days, because there's another city that I'm aware of, not dealing with, but one of the experts that was hired to look at this for Coral Springs. Coral Springs was 13 million. They got a written extension from FEMA, and now they're saying that shouldn't have happened. It's not good enough. Now they're trying to knock them out. So we will respond within 30
Yeah,
days.
they were-
We may supplement it, but we will respond within 30 days.
They were saying that certain actions by a certain agency were not allowable. I think that's what they're alluded to.
It's their agency, they're referring to themselves.
Okay. So,
I remember a figure of like 160,000 off the top of my head, it was very small print.
So I remember probably a week after I was elected and the bill had got into Village Hall, I was faced with a similar letter by the
Manager Garcia's first month or two.
Yeah, and there was a consulting company that worked with us to reduce that number to maybe 3% of what they were initially asking for. And maybe we should reach out to them and see what they
Could be,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
And I have
Peter,
someone too that, because you do need somebody that speaks their language. It's a different language.
Okay.
so thank you for reminding me that, to bring that up, to let you know.
Maybe by the time we have a regular meeting, we'll have more information.
I think so, but I think my first thing is to give a John on that response, because they were very clear, and then provide something for the September 13th.
Anything else? Commissioner Harrison, Commissioner Watson?
I think we
No.
should, the water board, like, say $1,000.
Okay, we can discuss it at the hearing. All right, announcements? I'm just going to.
And just to confirm, based on the changes you made, your contingency is now 28,741.
Okay.
Okay?
Announcements?
Monday's the day off. We all have an amen. Everything's closed for Labor Day, Tuesday, September 6th, Planning and Zoning. Monday, September 12th, Code Compliance Board. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 13th.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Do you want to go down?
Thank
Can
you.
you press stop?
Manager, clerk.